Thank you everyone for joining us for this webinar sharing an overview of the Martin Era series presented by Ben Payne. My name is Laura Lawrence and I'm the Global Marketing Director at Harman. Just a few things before we get started. Everyone on the call is muted to keep down noise levels during the webinar. However, there is a chat function where you can submit questions to the presenter, and we'll try to get as many questions answered as possible at the end. This webinar will also be recorded, and the link will be made available a few days after this presentation. We do have a number of other webinars taking place over the next few months for audio, lighting, video, and control, and we'd like to encourage you to take a look at the different webinars in our Learning Sessions Workshop series on pro.harman.com, as well as visiting Harman Professional University to see our many on-demand and certification courses that are always available to you for free. One final thing before we get to the presentation, Ben will be doing an on-camera demonstration of the Era product, so it's important to note that you're able to enlarge the video thumbnail view at the top of your screen so you're able to better see the demonstration. And now I'd like to introduce you to my colleague, Ben Payne, the presenter for today's webinar. Before becoming the Business Development Manager of Live Lighting for the EMEA region, Ben worked in the lighting industry for 20 years as a chief electrician, lighting designer, production electrician, and programmer. He has also run business development departments for leading rental companies. And now I'm going to pass the mic and the presenter ball over to you, Ben.
Thank you very much, Laura, and welcome, and thank you very much for coming and joining me today. I don't know where you're coming from today, whether you're coming from the USA and you're just waking up, like Laura, I think you said it was about 6:30 in the morning, or probably 7 o'clock in the morning now, or whether you're coming to us from APAC and sort of just heading towards bed, or you finish your day, or whether you're like I am here today, EMEA, and it's lunchtime. So where are we? What are we doing? We've got the Era 400, 600, and 800 behind me. These products were launched at LDI last year, 2019, October, November time, seems a long time ago now. But these were only launched about 4 or 5 months ago. A fantastic range of products. Where are we today? Well, we're actually inside my garage. At the start of all this, we were trying to work out in Martin ways we could get out to people and talk to people. And I had a big garage, and I thought, well, this is the best way to get out and get and see people with these products. So behind all these drapes is my lawnmower, which I'll be doing at the weekend. The bikes will be going out on the rise. It's nice weather here in the UK, and you know, it's a garage. We've converted it. We've put drapes at the side. We've put drape on the ceiling. So please bear in mind that actually the Eras, you know, are in quite a confined area. The other thing to bear in mind is we're doing this all off Wi-Fi, and we're doing all off sort of bandwidth of WebEx and Zoom. These obviously platforms have become so important in the last couple of months, and for this, you know, we would never use these sorts of platforms for these sorts of demos. But at this moment in time, it's all we've got to play with. So just bear in mind some of the things we're going to talk through. So I'm going to show you some of the features of the product, but actually the camera is going to compress some things. And the camera is not perhaps going to show that 10-second playtime, which you'll see at the end of one of the cues, perfectly. But bear in mind, we are doing this over a compression service that's going there. We're also obviously dealing with Wi-Fi and everything like that, and I live at the end of a sort of quite rural village. And although we're fine on that side of things, it will just all a little bit compress. Bear in mind also we're set up in my garage. So we've got, you know, we've got Hazer running at 0.1%. We've got lights sort of sitting on flight cases. We've got the control desk balanced on some boxes as well. So this is where we are. This demo isn't decided to be sort of like a whole demo that you're going to go and take and go and buy your product off the back of it. Obviously, I'd love that to be, but we're also very mindful of the situation we are in the globe with an entertainment industry with no events and nothing going on. But this is to give you an indication of the product. The products, you know, as I said, were launched at LDI last year, and actually we didn't, you know, get some of these products for demos until the start of January or February time. And then sort of like customers that I deal with were saying, well, come and see me in March, come and see me in April. I'm really busy in January and February. We can't get around to see everyone. And of course, we know what happened at the start of March, and everything's gone from there. So we've not been able to get out and see a whole lot of these customers. And that's why we're doing this overview today. It's very much an overview. We're not going to go into in-depth and colour mixing and trying to mix this colour, this colour, this colour, see this fade time, everything like that. It's to give you an idea, rather than just looking at a spec sheet online or anything like that, it's to give you an idea of what these products can do in real life. At the end of this, you go, oh, I really love them. That looks a great bit of product. That looks a great bit of kit. What do you want to go and do? Well, take the next step. Reach out to your local Martin rep, your distributor, who you deal with, or anything like that. If you deal with somebody in APAC, go and speak to them. If you deal with the US team, go and deal with the US team. EMEA team, reach out to the distributor here, reach out to me, reach out to your Martin rep as well. We're all findable on social media. I'm on LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn. Message me if you can't find anywhere else. Go to martin.com and find us on martin.com of where to buy and all that information is there. So if you really like something, some follow-up information, go to those resources. They're all there for you. So people said to me at the start, where does this Era range sit? We all know the Mac range, we know the Viper, we know the Aura, we knew the fantastic Aura PXL, and if you haven't checked out the Aura PXL, go and do it. Brilliant product. 512 channels, it's its maximum ludicrous mode. Fantastic product. The scale of things you can do with such a workhorse fixture is going to be amazing. We all know the Rush range as well. Things like the Rush Car 2, MH6, MH7, MH11, all those sorts of products as well. So we know those two product ranges. We've now got this Era range. So people say, where's this Era range sit? This Era range sits brilliantly in the middle of that. And it's actually, it's there to complement the different ranges. But actually, what the Era range does as well is it pulls products and product information and data and things like that from the other products in the Martin range of products. So, for example, we've got the 600 and the 800. We've got the colour mixing is from the Mac Quantum. So you know the Mac Quantum? We've got it behind. The Era 500, which is our IP moving beam light, not here with me today, but the Era 500 pulls the colours from the Viper. The Gobo load, in actually most of these fixtures, all originate from the Viper. So you have a Mac Viper in your warehouse, and who doesn't pretty much around the world? Viper Gobos are all there in that fixture. So you've got Vipers, you can put in the Era 800 and do your gigs pretty much seamlessly without having to go, I've got to load a whole lot of other products in. So that's where this Era range sits. It sits in between the middle of these two things. The Rush Mac range of products. Where does it come from? Well, the Era range comes from two teams as well. We've still got our team in Denmark, headed up by Peter Scooter, who's been with Martin since pretty much day one, and Marcus Klusner, who's developed all things like the Encore, the XL, which if you watched this webinar a couple of weeks ago. And then we've got our team in China, which is a massive Harman, using the capability of the Harman power and everything we've got in China. And that's a team, there's a licensing team out there headed by Mark Buss, and Mark Buss has been with the company for at least 15, 16 years and used to be in the UK sales. The combination of these two teams have developed the Era range of products. That's what we see behind us today. So the other question people say is, where does the Era 600 and 800 sit? Well, is it a Viper replacement? Is it not a Viper replacement? My question back to those people always is, what is a Viper replacement? We all know the Viper. We love it. As Laura said, before I came into sales and came to Martin, I worked in lighting design. I use Vipers all the time for shows. I love what it does. It's a fantastic product. We've all known it. It's been out for 6, 7, 8 years. We all know it. It's a fantastic workhorse product. But it's 25,000 lumens when it launched, when it comes out of the box. And 25,000 lumens, over a whole period of time, will drop down to about 19,000 lumens over a period of time when the lamp drops and the degradation happens. So when that starts to happen, the output will drop and you'll start to lose that. Well, the key thing about the Era range, obviously, is that the Eras don't degrade. It's LED technology, so that is going to stay constant. The Era 600 sits at about 19,000 lumens, and the Era 800 sits at 34,000 lumens, and indeed is the brightest moving light that Martin has ever produced to date. So you think the Viper? Well, the Viper then will get down to about 18,000 lumens. The other thing about the Viper is we have two versions of it. We have the Viper Profile and we have the Viper Performance. Well, if you want two Gobo wheels, you've got to lose the framing shutters. Well, the 600 and 800 and indeed the 400 has the two Gobo wheels and the framing shutters as well. So you're getting more and more and more than you perhaps have on the Viper. And I've gone and done demos with the 600 and 800. People have said, can we get our Vipers out to do a comparison? And I go, yeah, no problem. I have no problem shooting out these products against any product out there, any competitor out there either. And when I've done those demos, people have turned around and said, yeah, I'll get my Vipers out, we'll have a look at it. First thing is, I'll put it in a deep blue or a saturated red. Everyone goes to red. Everyone knows that red is that colour. You put the Viper in red, put a Gobo in it as well. Everyone goes, turn the Viper off. We forget now. We've got so used to this range that the Viper is the product to pick, right? But actually the Era 600 and the 800 now outpower that Viper. And the hotspot, you don't get the hotspot, you get a completely flat field, you get all that sort of kind of things. And then we come down to something like the 400, feature set, fantastic, two Gobo wheels, framing shutters, prisms, CMY colour mixing as well, all in a really small compact unit. So the whole family really complements itself. And actually for me, the 600 and 800 really, really, really do replace that Viper. So just before we go into some of the cues, just to explain what we're going to do, we're going to go through fixtures one by one. So we've got the two 400 units. 400, we've got 400 warm and we've got 400 cold. Warm obviously is about 3000 Kelvin, cold is about 6500. The products are exactly the same, bar the light engine, one wheel on the colour wheel. We have a warm filter in to make the cold warm, and the warm to make the cold to make the warm cold, and all that way around. I always get them. So we've got filters to make them CTO, CTB correction. And then we've got the 600 and we've got the 800, which is the only in one version, which is in the cold. But again, please remember the 800. That should be in a big vast arena. It should be out in your big theatre. The 600 is out in the big theatre. The 400, all that. These products are not designed to be shooting onto the roof only a half a metre away or a metre away, and all that. So everything will focus onto the roof. I've tried to get it as sharp as I can. Obviously the beam is spread between the whole spectrum of it, and so therefore you'll look at the edges, and perhaps I'll say, it's really sharp field, and the gobo on all of them is really, really sharp. But as we look at them on this, first of all we're shining onto the fabric, second you're finding a really, really sharp angle. So when I say something, you have to trust what I'm saying to you, that it does this and this. There's no way we could show it in a much, much larger space than what we've got here. So we're just trying to give you that impression. Please remember we're working in this environment that we're working in. The other thing that I'm going to be completely honest with you about is something else we've had to do to make these work on the WebEx and the Zoom and all these other ways we've been doing some of these webinars, is that we're having to run the fader for the intensity at about 45 to 50%. That's not us trying to hide anything. That's not us trying to be anything other than just make this work for you. When we run these at the full sort of brightness, the camera can't cope. The camera can't cope with the contrast and the darkness, light, and all you end up is a white splodge. So when I was talking about the gobos, you get white splodge after white splodge after white splodge, and some of the colour mixing wouldn't read through as well. So what we've actually found is running about at 45, 50%, that sort of level, actually allows us to really see the clarity and the focus and the beam and everything like that. So it's not us trying to hide anything. And again, I would say, reach out to your reps, your distributors, all the contacts in marketing to see these products when we can get back out. We in Europe are starting to open back out. I know in APAC people are starting to open out, and the States are looking the same. So hopefully it won't be long. But this is just an overview to give you an idea what these products do. But just remember those two things. I will bring up the fader to say this is now at full so you can see it, and then we'll take it back down again. But it's just to give that impression. So that's enough waffle for me and enough explaining where we're at. Laura's going to be manning the questions. Obviously this is running, I'm trying to run a few things here at the same time. So Laura's going to man the questions. Happy to take any questions at the end. If you can't, your questions don't get asked, or you've got more questions to follow up, of course, please reach out to me at ben.payne@Harman. Quite straightforward, ben.payne@Harman, P-A-Y-N-E, and you can email me and find me. If I can't answer you, I'll pass it on to somebody who can. If you're not in my region, I'll pass it on to the USA team, respective regions, and they can try and help as well. But that leaves it for me just to say, enjoy the rest of the presentation, and we'll take it from there. So this is the era 400, 600, and 800. So we're going to start with the era 400. What you can see here is as you look at the image, you can see the cold on the left, you can see the warm on the right. As I said in that starting bit, the process will be exactly the same for going through these cues, and the units we are looking at are exactly the same. The only difference you are looking at now is between the light engine. So the light engine are exactly the same. So these units will have a degree zoom of 10 to 30 degrees. So that's down at the 10 degrees at the most narrow, and these go out to 30 degrees at the widest. Now, all these fixtures have a fantastic feature, which is the flatness beam and also the sharpness of the gobo. So these are the two units with the sharp gobo in. There might be a little bit of distortion you're seeing at the side, but that's onto the fabric and also the angle we're playing at. But a really, really nice sharp beam. And they're also really, really nice sharp beam down at the sharpest 10 degrees. And we can actually get really, really sharp down at that 10 degrees. So these fixtures, really, really small and compact. We've given you CMY colour mixing. Now this is where you can see the real difference between these units. If you know the Mac Encore and have the warm and the cold in the same way, this is sort of, you're getting that similar colour mixing. So it depends what you're using these for in a show. Are you trying to mix this in with a tungsten rig? Well, in that case, we'll put the warms in. If you're trying to mix in with an arc-based rig or perhaps a more LED-based rig, go for the cold. But what you're seeing here is exactly the same CMY flags. There is no difference between those units. It is purely the light engine that we are looking at is giving those different results. And these, we're about to go into the colour wheel. And as you see the colour wheel scroll through, again, these are exactly the same colours in the wheel, apart from the colour correction. So we've seen the colour correction go through once, we'll come through to it again. And what we've given you is a cold for the warm, warm for the cold. So the next colour wheel, there is the colour correction filter. It's not a variable colour correction filter, but it's actually just a piece of glass in there for that colour correction. But of course you can mix that in as a CMY to get to those colours as well. So what else is in that fixture? We've got a rotating Goba wheel. So on this rotating Goba wheel, which is all interchangeable, we've got 7 different Gobos. Like so, and these Gobos are all, you'll recognise some of them as Martin favourites. Some of these are definitely Martin favourites I've used for many, many years. Like so. And then you've also then got a fixed Goba wheel. Now the fixed Goba wheel is a stamped one wheel. These are not rotatable or indexable. But you've got 9 Gobos on here. These are very much for the aerial, sort of the aerial looks. And if you're used to the Era 300s, a lot of these Gobos are similar there, so you can achieve that sort of look. So you could have the 400s doing your shuttering, and then the 300s doing something with the beam. So these are 9 Gobos on there. But we've also given you a 3-facet prism. Now, most prisms will go from we have a 10 to 30 degree zoom. The prism will actually sort of go in a bit smaller than the 30 degrees. Actually, we go wider than the 30 degrees, so we're giving you a bit more width to the beam, and you can use it from there. We've also given you an RS, like so, nice tight, sharp beam. And then we've also given you framing shutters. Now, if you know the Mac Viper range and the Encore range and everything like that, you can't bring the shutters in all the way. What we've done with the 400 and like with the 600 and the 800, we've actually given you the ability to have completely curtain framing shutters, which is a fantastic addition to the range. It allows you obviously to make all different sorts of shapes and also get some of those effects like an opening door and things like that you might want to do with the shutters. And we're looking here, we're looking actually at the shutters in and the Gobo in as well. So another really, really strong feature of this product is the fact that you can get the Gobo really, really sharp, and then you can also get the shutters in at the same time and get a sharp edge. There's not many fixtures in the market that will do that. So those are the features. I'm just going to show you a 10-second fade. Like so, and then I'll show you another 10-second fade up. Like so. Obviously the camera will compress some of that and the camera will not be showing some of that as well as it is showing, but it's a really, really nice, smooth fade. Just to give the warning, I'm going to do a strobe just so you can see it. Anyone affected by that, just be aware of that. And we've got a strobe like so. And of course, that's actually the LED engines chasing. That is nothing to do with a mechanical part. So that is the Era 400, and that's the Era 400 warm and the Era 400 cold. So we're now going to move on to the 600. So that's the 600. That's the normal state we're going to run it at, just to give the impression that we do actually go brighter. That is the 600. But obviously you'll probably see that it's now whiting out. So we're just going to drop it back to 45%. And I just wanted to be honest to prove that we have actually got more light out to come out. So the Era 600, as I said before, was like the sort of Viper replacement, and it's there to do a lot of the feature set that the Viper do. So what does this have? This has a much, much, much wider zoom range. So we go down to a nice tight 6-degree zoom like so. Not on this perfectly sharp, as you can see, but that we're working on such a narrow zoom. I didn't want to enlarge it much larger. So this is we can get a really, really sharp edge. And then we can also go out to a very, very wide 45 degrees. Obviously, you won't see the edge of the beam. It's lighting all sides of my garage very, very nicely at this moment in time. And one of the first things I saw when I saw these units was at the widest setting and the widest 45 degrees, we can actually get a really, really sharp beam as well. So that's not just a beam in the centre that's sharp, we can also get a nice sharp edge all around the side and a flat field as well, which is a major step forward. If you think about things like the Viper, you have very much a hot spot and perhaps the edges aren't perfectly sharp. This, very much different. And the same with the 800. They both get a really, really sharp field across the whole gobo projection. So we then get sharp image down at the smallest. There you go, like I say. And then we go into colour mixing. Full CMY colour mixing like you would expect. Again, using the max quantum colour flags so you get those colours you know. We can get some really, really deep, rich colours. And I think this was one of the biggest things also for me when I saw these products against something like a Viper. You suddenly realise how much technology's moved on and how much we've progressed in some of these colour mixings. Viper will lose, the deep saturated red. The Viper is probably one of the best of that sort of period of units. But in fact, actually now, this completely outpowers it. So that's the colour mixing. But what else can we do in colour? Well, we also have a variable CTO. So this variable CTO takes you down to about 3200 Kelvin and allows you to get those warm, rich tones that you would expect. So something like an Encore or something like that. So this colour mixing allows you to get into that sort of scale of colours. And then we've also given you a colour wheel. Personally, I've not yet found a colour really we've not been able to achieve through the CMY colour mixing, but we've actually given it to you as well. We've also given you a colour correction filter on this unit as well. So if you want to use that, you've got it there to be used. There we go. And it's just a slightly different colour temperature from the variable CTO. So that colour wheel is there. I think everyone sort of expects a colour wheel nowadays in a unit. Still, even though we don't probably use it as much as we do, it is there should you want it. But actually the CMY colour mixing allows you to get a lot of those colours should you want them. Now, as I said about the Viper, we all know the Viper profile and performance. You have to make that decision whether you want 2 gobo wheels or you want a gobo wheel and a framing shuttering unit. Well, we've taken that away from you. We don't need you to make that choice anymore. We've given you 2 gobo wheels and a framing shuttering unit. So we've got 2 gobo wheels here. We've got a rotating gobo and then we've got a fixed gobo wheel. So we go to the rotating gobo wheel. On this, there are 7 gobos. Now, if you know the Viper range well, you'll recognise these gobos. And actually, again, it allows you to have Vipers in your rental house, put these into your rental house and rental fleet as well, and actually you can get that similar gobo look. So that's the first one. And all these are glass gobos and they're all interchangeable. Some very much standard favourites of Martin, which we all know and love. And actually this has got a 7th gobo on the rotating, like so. That is slightly different at 800. We now move to the fixed gobo wheel. Again, all Martin gobos that you would know and recognise from other products. And on this unit, we've got 8 gobos. Like so. There's lots of cool features on these products, and I think one of the other things which is really impressive is how that gobo focus allows you to get sort of really, really sharp edge. And because of those things that we managed to do with the sharp edges to get it nice and sharp, we've actually we can do some really nice morphing between gobos. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that first one. So at this moment in time, you can see a sharp, really sharp image on that cloth. And what we're looking at there is actually 2 gobos. Now you sort of might go, well, no, we're not, but we are. We're looking at 1 gobo there, and we're looking at 1 gobo rotating. And to prove that point, I'm going to run into the next cue, and you will see the 2 gobos morph between. So we're not pulling a gobo out, we're not doing any tricks, we're not doing anything like that. We've pulled the other gobo out, and you can now get that sharp. And there isn't actually much light drop out at all. It's sharp gobos between the 2, and you can morph between the 2. And that's possible with all the gobos. I've just picked those 2 gobos because they're a really good indication of how to make that work. We've also given you 2 prisms. So this one's a linear prism, nice effect, you can get all sorts of things with that. And then we've given you a sort of square 4-facet prism. It's not able to run the 2 prisms on top of each other, but you can get those multiple effects, all the beam effects you might want to achieve as well. We've also given you an animation wheel. So you've got this animation wheel, we all know what one of those can do with the unit, and the effects obviously you can add and build with the prisms and all those things on top of that. One thing to be aware of is the animation wheel that we have in this unit is not like the Encore. So if you know the Encore, you can bring the animation wheel in as an angle, and you can bring it in different planes. We haven't done that on this unit. We've given you the opportunity to have it obviously rotating in either way, but it's just rotating that. It's not able to be brought in at a different angle. And then of course, if we add in the animation wheel with the gobo and some colour, you obviously get the effects we all know. Iris does what it says, nothing more than that really. And again, like the 400, we've given you full curtain framing shuttering system. So you can bring the blades across, you can get a nice sharp to the edges, all edges really sharp. You might be looking at this and seeing a few of the shutters look a bit bendy. Obviously that's just playing with the angles that we're working at here. But put these flat onto a wall, you get a really, really nice sharp edge across all the blades. And again, like the 400, we're able to go sharp to shutters, and we're also able to go sharp to the gobo at the same time. So that's 4 frames in and also sharp to the gobo. Now, this unit and the 800 are very similar in lots of things. This unit, however, has only 1 frost. So we've given you a frost that is, in my way, sort of a bit of a 132, a bit of a 119 in Rosco. If you know those sort of frosts in the colours, this is very similar to the sort of cross between the two. It gives a bit of definition still for the beam, but you also still lose a bit of that as well. So 1 frost, and that's the frost in at the moment, and then that's the frost out. Now, we can also put a gobo in, like so you can see it nice and sharp in the centre of the beam, and then we're also going to put the frost in. So you can just about, I don't know whether the camera's completely picking it up, you can just about still make out that there is a gobo in there. There's a bit of a beam to it, but actually the frost takes the edge off that beam. We take the frost out, of course, we return to the gobo sharp, like so. Pull the gobo out, and we're going to now run a 10-second fade. This is obviously, remember, at 45% on the Grandmaster. And a nice smooth phase, like so. And then we run the fade back up. Like so, and that's that complete. When I've done shootouts, obviously we've done these against Viper and obviously other competitor products as well. But actually, obviously, the Viper is bringing in a mechanical flag to make the unit go dark. This obviously is dimming the LED engine. And actually, this is one of the most responsive units I've seen on shootouts at the bottom end, coming in nice, smooth curve. So we've done well. And of course, you've also got the different curves, 4 dimmer curves that you'd expect that all marketing units carry as an option to run it through. Just to say, we're going to do another strobe, just for those who might be affected. So, like so. And that, of course, is the strobe. That's the LED engine flashing. There is no mechanical parts coming into the unit to make that strobe happen. So that's the ERA 600. We now come on to the ERA 800. The ERA 800, 34,000 lumens, 38 kilograms. So nothing ridiculously big, but for the output, it's really, really up there. I'm just going to show you again the ERA 800 at full, just so you can see, to prove that we are not trying to hide anything or say anything. We're not. There's the ERA 800 at full, and back down to 45%, just so that your cameras aren't pointed out. The 600 and the 800 are very, very, very similar products. So color mixing, you'll get the same color mixing. The gobo loads are almost identical, the same. You know, the aim of them is that they can run together and work together absolutely fine. But the 800 obviously has that bit more punch. And so 34,000 lumens is the brightest unit that Martin has made to date. So this one does a zoom from 7 to 56 degrees. So again, really small tight beam with a really fat front lens. Get a nice effect from there. And we go out to 56 degrees at its widest. You can't see that here, but again, it's lighting the walls very nicely of my garage. And again, we get a really flat beam and a really punchy beam even at its widest. We put a gobo in at the side when it's at its biggest, and again, get a nice flat field across the whole beam, and we get it sharp everywhere, right into the corners, right into the edges. And down to the smallest, again, we can get it really sharp. And I think if you don't know these units, I think the gobo work will really impress you with how much punch, how much sharp we can get those gobos right across the whole focal point, focal range. So I just need to take a drink. So we then go to colour mixing. CMY colour mixing, again, from Matt Quantum, the same colour mixing that we get from the Era 600. So if you know the 600, you've got 600s in your fleet, you can put the 800s in there, vice versa. And obviously those real punch, real saturated colours get some really, really, really nice effects through. And just like on the 600, we've also got a variable CTO. Comes down, really nice on skin tones, really, really nice effect for those people who need that sort of colour. And like on the 600 as well, we've got a colour wheel. Again, the colours I've seen on the colour wheel are all achievable by matching in and using the CMY colour mixing, but it's there should you want that colour wheel to be. The gobo load on the 800 is absolutely identical, apart from we've got one less gobo on each wheel, and that's all due to space in the unit and how the optics work. So the gobos very similar to the Viper and very similar to the 600. So gobos in the same order, rotating glass gobos. And that's the 6 gobos, and I said Martin gobos that we all know and love. And the fixed wheel, like so. And just to be completely 100% transparent, which we're trying to do in this webinar, is these gobos are not the same size as the Viper. Now, obviously, from our point of view of having both units in the warehouse, that isn't ideal. We understand that. But the optics and how LED technology works and everything like that, it's not the same way that the light needs to go through the unit, and therefore we can't make it work. So these are exactly the same gobos, but they're not the same size of gobos, so just be aware of that. But because we've made the gobos exactly the same, if you've got Vipers in your fleet with the standard gobo load, you're also going to be able to use these units as well because of how those gobos work together. So, like we've seen on the 600, there's a great ability to morph as well. I've chosen a slightly different gobo here to go with, but again, we've got the 2 gobos sat here. I'm just going to bring the fader up, so the master fader up, so you can see. There isn't a loss of output. It's still nice and bright, even with the both gobos in. And we're going to pull the focus through to the other gobo. And you can start to see that rotating gobo start to pull through. And you've still got a really good defined image on the beam from both gobo, that new gobo, but with the other gobo still being a really, really strong feature of the product. We're giving you 2 prisms again, with a linear and a square prism. Like that, again, you can't get these 2 prisms in at the same time. They need to be separate. And we've given you an animation wheel like we have on the 600, which works in exactly the same way. So it goes clockwise or anti-clockwise, but it doesn't actually allow you to come into any kind of angle. And once you put the 2 and colour together, we get a nice gobo and water effect, should you wish to. Of course, the unit's got an iris, like so, and like the rest of the family, we've got a good framing shuttering system, like so. The framing shuttering systems will rotate by plus and minus 6 degrees, so quite a lot of competitors will plus and minus by 45 degrees, we are plus and minus by 60 degrees. And actually as well, these units just like the 600 and the 400, we've got a really sharp shutter, and we've also got a really sharp gobo as well, which is a massive advantage for my background. But for theatre, you always sort of want to get offset, bring that shutter in, want to get that nice sharp look to that, but also you've got sharp to the gobo as well. So, what's the difference between the 600 and the 800? The difference between the 600 and the 800 here is actually frost. We've got two frosts in the 800. We've given you a heavy frost, we've given you a light frost. For me, if you know your Roscoe frosts, your Roscoe 132 is what we're looking at as the light frost, and we're looking at the 119 as the heavy frost. And I'm going to show you those two things now. So we're going to come in with the first frost. We've got a sharp edge to the beam, and what you can see, you can just sort of see the edges taken off, the blue edge has been taken off the beam, and but we've still got a sense of a circle. And if you were looking at this on a flat wall, you'd still sort of see that edge and that look there. But it's just a bit of frost just to take off the edge, sort of blowing the focus just that little bit. We'll pull the frost out, and then we'll put a gobo in so you can sort of see the gobo work. So nice sharp gobo, which you can see through the haze. And then if we put the frost in, you still get that really sort of edge to the beam. You still can see and make out there's a gobo. Coming from the theatrical world, that sort of put a bit of frost in, get sharp to your gobo onto the bit of set, put a bit of frost in to the unit. That's the sort of look that I used to love. So really, really nice frost you can put in. We take that frost out, we just bring some framing shutters in, so nice sharp. As I said, you might be seeing this through the camera, that is, you're seeing a bit of bend. For complete clarification, there's some ceiling lights in my garage I've had to work around, so that sort of bend is working around that ceiling. But actually these can get a really, really nice, sharp, straight edge if you shine these onto a wall. So then we look at that framing there, we put the light frost in. You can see it there, you've just got that edge blown, just take that edge off the unit. So we take those out, and we then put the frost, the heavier frost in. Like so. So here, very much like the 600, we sort of really lose the definition of the beam. And actually I've done this demo for a few people who want to look at these as possibly as wash lights. Whilst they're not a wash light, and we're not trying to say you've got that intensity from a wash light, the frost does really give a really soft edge to that beam and allows you that sort of frost look if you want it to be, a wash look if you want it to be. So we'll pull that frost out, and then the final part of this cue is to look at the fade time. And this again is fading down over 10 seconds. So we're fading down to 0 over 10. Really smooth and a really, really nice bottom end of that dimming. I remember a shootout that was done in the UK about 3-4 years ago of the first LED units, and it was all over the place and different fade times, and some were going out at 20% and some were going out at 10 and some were going out at all different sizes of parts of the fade time. But actually, at this moment in time, the fade is really, really nice. Fading up over 10 seconds, like so. And there we go. Just a warning, the strobe is going to go off. And again, this is not mechanical, there's no moving parts to create this. This is the LED engine flickering and being controlled in that way. And the final part of the trick that these units can do, because they can now obviously do all the shuttering, we can now create the Martin logo with all the units that we finish up on the Era 800 logo and the Martin logo, like so. So those are all the units. We've gone through all of those. I'm very happy now, Laura, if there have been some questions, to take questions. If there haven't been any questions, I hope I've covered it all, and we can go from there.
We do have one question asking if the frost is interchangeable.
Between the 600, so we can take the frost is being worked on. So we are looking at the possibility that you can take the frost out of the 800, so the light frost, and put it into the 600, and that is being worked on following feedback from the market. So yes, that is being looked at. We are also looking at some feature changes, sort of like on working on some adaptions and bits and pieces to the CRI filters and things like that. That is all being worked at, and obviously keep an eye on Martin for the announcements of those sorts of things.
Okay, another question came in asking if we can listen to a reset as if we'd have to reset a unit mid-show.
You can listen to a reset. Let me go, and if I move the camera, we're going to lose signal because of the signal in my house. So let me go and turn off the 800, and then we'll turn it back up again. So we've now lost the 800, as you can see. And the unit is now powering up. Hopefully you can sort of see that on the camera all right. So there we go. There's for those obviously we're trying to work off the microphone that we've got in the camera. There's a bit of a clicking, a little bit of a clicking sound for the first second and a half. After that, it's pretty quiet as it goes through the load and reboot.
Okay, we have another question. Do the units have the Animotion effect?
No, the units don't have the Animotion effect. No. So it's just one light engine flat. You can't do what you do on the Encores. No.
Okay, it looks like that's all that's come in right now. Give it just one more minute to see if anybody else has a question. Otherwise, Ben, did you want to share your contact information if people have additional questions?
Yeah, if anyone's got any additional questions or wants to know more or anything like that, please do come back to me. It's ben.payne@harman.com. That's ben.payne, P-A-Y-N-E, @harman.com. And obviously, I'd be delighted to help or answer any questions. And you can also find me on LinkedIn and both social media channels as well. So more than happy to answer any questions you've got.
Okay, perfect. It looks like that's it. Ben, thank you so much for the presentation.
No problem at all.
Yep, and thank you everyone for attending. We appreciate your time. And if you want to look into any of the upcoming webinars that we have later on this month, you can find those on pro.harman.com. Everyone have a great day. We really appreciate you attending.